I voted in favor of the economic development strategic plan, and also have voted in favor of making facilitating the creation of head of household jobs one of the council major budget goals. And how we do that is by well, what can the city do? The city cannot actually create the jobs. What we can do is create the infrastructure that facilitates the kinds of businesses that actually do create head of household jobs. And also I want to say that a good source of head of household jobs are governments, the county government, the city government, Caltrans, all of the government positions that we have here. This is one of the reasons our city has so many middle class people, and I think that's a good thing. In terms of more housing,
10 seconds.
I'm voting to overrule the Airport Land Use Commission.
With regard to housing, I think we can see a connection between Polly, as Mike alluded to. If we encourage, demand, request Polly to put more students on campus, it frees up the housing here in San Luis. By freeing up those rooms, it is going to be the people who work here in this city every day who would be able to move into that housing. It's kind of cause and effect. It is probably the easiest and quickest way that we can get workforce housing because it's already here. It's just being occupied by students. So that's a major incentive. I think we should be pushing Polly to do that. With regard to head of household jobs, very difficult thing to do because every community, literally in America, would like to have those jobs. We have an advantage, oddly, because of policy, but because of Cal Poly. We should be exploiting that in terms of bringing those industries which are technologically based.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see the job growth that has been occurring in San Luis Obispo in recent years, and I think we have to do our best to continue to encourage that growth to happen. In particular, as I mentioned earlier, reaching out to businesses and understanding their needs and their barriers are primary to increasing head of household jobs. And so looking into ways that the city can change infrastructure financing to help the projects build the right infrastructure for these businesses to grow is important. Developers want to provide office space and housing, and our city council and prior decision makers have done a great job building the framework in which those developments can occur without undue negative impacts to our community. So I think moving forward on those types of projects is important to address both needs, to encourage businesses to grow and increase their head of household jobs, and to simultaneously build the homes necessary to house those employees.
Unfortunately, I believe that more jobs increased here is going to depend on our federal government. We need to secure our borders and keep Americans working, not third world countries that are pouring in by the busload. It trickles all the way down to us in a small community like San Luis. I believe that we need to focus more on hiring Americans and not other third world country people. That in itself would help secure jobs for our own.
I think the first thing we need to do is really support the businesses that we have here and make sure that they have the infrastructure necessary to grow. We're bringing a lot of high-end hotels downtown and attracting more of our tourism. But we don't want rents to rise. I mean, if those continue to rise, we're going to see a lot more turnover in our downtown districts, and that's bad for our economy. Secondly, I think the city council has a symbolic role that we can play with going out to Silicon Valley. Let's bring more high-tech companies. The companies that we look to that are really successful with creating work or head of household jobs are, like MindBody. In Paso, it's HQMIS, I think, HQMS. But those are good examples. The machine shop that grew that I mentioned earlier that I worked with, they're focusing on a lot of high-tech, working with inventors, and I think everybody that Brian's hired has been well paid. So anyway, support our existing jobs and make sure that we're being good ambassadors.
In terms of head of household jobs, as Jen said, we really can't create the jobs, but the city can make sure that the infrastructure and the support that employers need is in place. That means working on all the things that people have talked about already, but also making sure that we are using our public and private regional partnerships to build that infrastructure, invest in that infrastructure, and finding more innovative ways of paying for that infrastructure. In terms of housing, I could give you an entire hour-long speech, and that would just be the beginning. So not only does Cal Poly need to put more housing on campus, but the city needs to update its land use and circulation element to provide for more housing, and we need to take a very close look at what that Airport Land Use Commission is saying, because I don't think that what they're doing is legal, and I think what they're doing will crush and cripple our ability to make the kinds of changes and provide the kinds of resources that our businesses need. Thanks.
I guess in the last question I answered the workforce housing portion of it, but another aspect of it is even if we were to move more of the students on campus, which is where I sincerely believe that they belong, this is such a desirable area that I don't know that we can ever build enough housing that it will ever drive the cost down. Every time a new housing development goes in, the houses are going to be priced at, pick a number, $350, $400, $450. Wait for a couple of years and they've gone up another $50,000 to $100,000. I think we might be chasing our tails there. There are too many people who would like to live here, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to do that says, no, you can't come here. We're keeping this just for ourselves. It's something that we're going to deal with on just a long-term basis. As far as head of family jobs, that's a really difficult one. As I go up and down Broad Street, or on the Broad Street corridor out Tank Farm, there are an awful lot of new businesses out there that look to me like they are probably employing people who have head of household jobs. If we're thinking of non-head of household jobs as being Starbucks, that's a starter job for a kid gets in there and starts learning and works his way up. Thank you.
As the unchallenged Southside mayor on the Sacramento Drive neighborhood, I've interacted and talked with all the businesses in that district, and we have had many successful startups of high technology. That's what we need, high technology, which draws also on our Cal Poly talent that we have, and perhaps they can become our permanent residents of our town and not have to go away if they had adequate head of household jobs. One of the things that would help us get our businesses even more attractive for high technology would be if we weren't operating our internet in this town at a tenth of the state average of speed. We need to do things like encourage modernizing. Level 3 is in my block, and it's got the fastest in the world.
Thank
We
you,
need
Don.
better.